Here is firewood and food for 2 weeks. I am going to the Maldives with my wife, and I am taking all of your savings." Those were the exact words my son, Ethan, said to me as he closed the door of this snow-covered cabin 150 miles from the city. 150 miles of absolute nothing. Just trees, silence, and a cold that cuts right through to your bones. He took my phone from the table. He slipped it into his pocket as if it were his, as if I had no right to call for help, as if my life no longer mattered. "Oh, I changed the locks on the apartment." He shouted that from the car window with a smile that chilled me more than all the snow in the world. Jessica, his wife, was at the wheel, laughing at me. At the stupid old woman who worked her entire life, who raised her son alone after his father died, who saved every penny to have something decent in her old age. And now they were going to the Maldives with my money. With the $75,000 my late husband and I scraped together over 40 years of sacrifice. I watched them drive away down the snow-covered dirt road. The car disappeared between the trees, and the silence swallowed me whole. I am 68 years old. I am alone. I have no phone. I have no way to get out of here. The nearest town is a day's walk away, and in this cold, I would never make it alive. Ethan knew that. He planned everything perfectly. Oh, so he thought. Because what my son did not know, what Jessica could not imagine, as she laughed on her way to the airport, is that I had also planned something. Something that was waiting for them right there, at that very airport, and when they discovered it, when they understood what I had done, it would be far too late for them. I stood in front of the window, watching the tire tracks fade under the fresh snow, and I smiled. Yes, I smiled, because for the first time in 3 weeks, since I discovered their miserable plan, I felt like I could breathe. The trap was set. All that was left was for them to fall into it. But let me tell you how I got here. How a mother who loved her son madly ended up abandoned in a frozen cabin, waiting for the perfect moment of her revenge. Because this did not begin today. It began exactly 21 days ago, when I overheard a conversation I was never meant to hear. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Ethan had come to visit me, which was rare because ever since he married Jessica 3 years ago, he barely showed up at my apartment. I was happy to see him. I made his favorite meal, that pot roast he loved as a kid. He ate in silence, distracted, glancing at his phone every 2 minutes. Jessica did not come with him. She never did. That woman hated me from the day I met her, even though I always tried to be kind, to accept her, to love her like a daughter. After dinner, Ethan excused himself and went out onto the balcony to make a call. He said it was work. I stayed in the kitchen washing dishes, but the window was open. I did not mean to listen. It was fate, or maybe God, putting me in the right place to discover the snake I had raised. The old woman does not suspect a thing. I heard Ethan's voice, clear as water. That voice that used to sing me lullabies when he was little. That voice that told me I love you, Mom, every night before bed. I already spoke to the owner of the cabin. We drop her off there with supplies and head straight to the airport. I am changing the locks tomorrow. By the time anyone finds her, if they ever find her, we will be in the Maldives spending her money. My hand stopped under the water. The plate slipped and crashed into the sink. But Ethan did not hear it. He kept talking. "Jessica, baby, in 2 days, we will be rich. $75,000. Enough to start over in another country if we want. The old woman has no one else. No siblings. No close friends. No one is going to ask about her until it is too late." I felt the floor move beneath my feet. I had to grip the edge of the sink to keep from falling. My son, my only son, the boy for whom I sacrificed everything, my dreams, my youth, my entire life. He was planning to abandon me to freeze to death in an isolated cabin. And the worst part, the part that shattered my soul, was hearing him laugh. Laughing while he talked about my death as if it were a technicality, a minor detail in his perfect plan. I dried my hands slowly. I took a deep breath. And in that moment, something inside me changed. I was no longer Margaret, the loving, self-sacrificing mother. I was someone else. Someone who had been pushed too far. Someone who had nothing left to lose. Ethan walked into the kitchen, smiling. "Sorry, Mom. That was important." His voice was so sweet, So fake. I smiled back at him. Do not worry, my love. And I hugged him. I hugged him tight while he remained clueless that I had heard every word, that I knew every detail of his betrayal, that from that moment on, the game had changed. That night, after Ethan left, I did not cry. I did not scream. I did not break anything. I sat in my favorite armchair, the same one where my husband died 5 years ago, and I thought with absolute clarity, if my son wanted to play dirty, I was going to teach him who invented the game, because he forgot something important. I did not make it to 68 by being a fool. I survived poverty, widowhood, years of working double shifts to give everything to that ungrateful son. And if I have learned anything in this life, it is that when you are pushed to the edge of a cliff, you either fall or you learn to fly. I picked up my phone and called the only person I could trust. Catherine, my friend of 30 years. The woman who was with me when I buried my husband. The smartest lawyer I know. Catherine, I need your help. My voice sounded calm, cold, different. I need this to stay between us. It is about Ethan, and I need to act fast. She did not ask any questions. She just said, "Come to my office tomorrow." And she hung up. That is how real friends are. They do not need explanations. They just need to know you need them. That was the night the mother died and the strategist was born. The night I stopped being a victim and became a player. Because Ethan made a fatal mistake. He underestimated me. He thought that because I was old, I was weak. He thought that because I was his mother, I would forgive anything. But there are betrayals that cannot be forgiven. And there are mothers who, when they awaken with fangs. Now I am here, in this frozen cabin, surrounded by snow and silence. Ethan thinks he has won. He thinks he is on his way to his tropical paradise with my money in his pocket and a clear conscience. But what he does not know, what he is about to discover at that airport, is going to shatter him more than any cold. Because revenge, when served ice cold, when cooked with patience and precision, is the bitterest dish of all. And I, Margaret, have been cooking it for 3 weeks. The day after I overheard that cursed conversation, I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I had not slept at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's laughing face, heard his words like knives stabbing into my chest. The old woman does not suspect a thing. Those words spun in my head like a broken record. But I was not going to let myself be destroyed. Not after everything I had survived. I showered, got dressed in my gray suit, the one I wore for important occasions, and left my apartment at 7 o'clock sharp. Catherine's office was on the other side of town, but I needed to walk. I needed to feel the cold morning air to keep my mind clear. Because what I was about to do required precision. One single mistake, and Ethan would win. One single false move, and I would end up frozen in that cabin with no one ever knowing the truth. I arrived at 8:30. Catherine was already waiting for me with 2 steaming cups of coffee. She is 56 years old, with short hair and a few gray streaks she never bothered to dye, and a gaze that can read people like open books. When she saw me walk in, she knew immediately that something terrible had happened. "Tell me everything, Margaret, and do not hold anything back." Her voice was firm, but warm. I sat across from her and told her every detail, the call on the balcony, Ethan's exact words, the plan to abandon me in the cabin, the $75,000, the Maldives, everything. As I spoke, I felt the words burn my throat, but I did not cry. I had no tears left for that son. Catherine listened in silence. When I finished, she stared at me for a long minute. Then she spoke with the kind of calm that only lawyers who have seen the worst of humanity possess. "We have 3 weeks, you said. That is enough time, but we need to move fast. First, the money. You need to protect it right now." She pulled out a folder and started writing. "We are going to open a new account at a different bank. In your name only. Today, we transfer 80% of your savings. We will leave some in the old account so Ethan does not get suspicious, but the bulk of it will be safe. Second, we need evidence of his intentions. That is trickier, but I know someone who can help us." "Who?" I asked, though at that moment I would have accepted help from the devil himself to stop Ethan. "Vincent. He is a private investigator. He has worked with me on several family fraud cases. He is discreet, fast, and does not ask unnecessary questions. I am going to ask him to follow Ethan and Jessica. If they are planning anything else, he will find out. And if there is anything they can use against you or in your favor, we will know before they do. A shiver ran down my spine. This was real. I was about to spy on my own son, to build a case against him as if he were a common criminal. But then I remembered his words. By the time anyone finds her, if they ever find her, and the guilt evaporated. He stopped being my son the moment he decided to leave me to die. Do what you have to do, Catherine. I will do my part. I am going to act like I know nothing. I am going to be the loving mother, the foolish old woman he thinks I am. And when the time comes, I will be ready. Catherine nodded and picked up her phone. In less than an hour, I was sitting in a different bank opening a new account. The representative, a young woman with glasses and a professional smile, explained all the details. We transferred $60,000. I left $15,000 in my old account, enough that Ethan would not notice anything strange if he checked, but not so much that he could steal my entire future. When I walked out of the bank, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in 24 hours. The money was safe. At least there was that. But the hardest part remained. Pretending. Acting as if my heart was not broken into 1,000 pieces. As if I did not know that my only son wanted me dead. That same afternoon, Ethan called me. Mom, Jessica and I were thinking about taking you to a friend's cabin for a few days. You know, so you can rest, get some fresh air. It would do you good to get out of the city. His voice sounded so convincing, so concerned. I could almost believe he actually cared. Oh, my love, what a lovely thought, I replied in the sweetest tone I could manage. But I do not want to be a bother. I know you two are busy. It is no bother, Mom. We insist. It is all arranged. We leave in 2.5 weeks. Pack warm clothes. It is going to be cold, but you will love the place. It is very peaceful. Peaceful. What a beautiful word for isolated, remote, perfect for abandoning someone. Thank you, son. You are so good to me. The words scraped my throat like ground glass, but I said them, because that was my part of the plan, to make him believe he had already won. The following days were a silent torture. Ethan came to visit more often, always smiling, always attentive. He brought me flowers, helped me with my groceries, asked me how I was feeling. It was all a show, and I played my part so well. I cooked for him, asked about his work, told him how much I loved him. 2 actors in a macabre play, each believing they were fooling the other. But while I acted during the day, at night I met with Catherine and Vincent. The investigator was a thin man in his 50s, with eyes that missed no detail. In our first meeting, he showed me photos. Ethan going in and out of pawn shops. Jessica meeting a man in coffee shops. Documents of debts I knew nothing about. Your son owes money, Mrs. Peterson. A lot of money, Vincent said, laying the papers on the table. About $30,000 between loans and credit cards. And your daughter-in-law, well, she has her own agenda. The man she is meeting is named Ryan. He works as a waiter at a high-end restaurant, but from the looks of it, she is passing him money. A lot of money. My stomach churned. Did my daughter-in-law have a lover? Did Ethan know? Or was she playing him just as expertly? There is more, Vincent continued. I have been tracking their movements for 5 days. They bought plane tickets to the Maldives, just 2 tickets, in the names of Ethan and Jessica. They leave on the exact same day they plan to leave you at the cabin. But here is where it gets interesting. Ryan also bought a ticket to the same destination, for the day after. Catherine and I looked at each other. The full picture was starting to form, and it was worse than I had imagined. Jessica was not just planning to steal my money with Ethan. She was planning to abandon him too, to take everything and run off with her lover. My son was an idiot, a cruel idiot, but an idiot nonetheless. We need more evidence, Catherine said. Something we can use legally. Vincent, can you record a conversation between them? Something that proves the plan? Already did. Vincent pulled a small recorder from his briefcase, last night in their apartment. They talked about everything. how they are going to leave you, changing the locks, transferring the money. They even mentioned that if you do not survive the cold, it would be easier because there would be no police report. It is all here. My hands trembled as I reached for the recorder. Catherine stopped my hand before I could press play. Do not listen to it, Margaret. Not now. You have to keep a clear head. We have what we need. Now comes the final part. The strike. What are we going to do? I asked, though a part of me already knew the answer. We are going to let them take you to the cabin. You are going to act as if you know nothing. And when they get to the airport, thinking they have won, the police will be waiting for them. With this recording, with the fraudulent documents, with everything. We are going to destroy them legally before they even step on the plane. But I will be alone in that cabin, I said. What if something goes wrong? You will not be alone. Vincent is going to follow them from a distance. The moment they leave you there, he will come for you. He will get you out of there within a few hours. We just need Ethan and Jessica to believe they have won long enough for them to get to the airport. It was risky. It was painful. But it was perfect. I nodded slowly. Let us do it. The next few days were the strangest of my life. I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew every detail of Ethan's plan. And still, I had to wake up every morning and act as if my world were normal. As if my son was not counting the days until he abandoned me in the middle of nowhere. As if every hug he gave me was not a lie wrapped in betrayal. But I was counting, too. Counting the days until the trap would spring. And in the meantime, I prepared each piece of my revenge with the precision of a watchmaker. Because if there is one thing I have learned in 68 years of life, it is that patience is the most powerful weapon there is. The impulsive make mistakes. The patient win wars. A week before the trip, Ethan showed up at my apartment with some papers. Mom, I need you to sign this. It is just a temporary power of attorney, so I can manage your accounts while you are resting at the cabin. You know, pay your bills, that kind of thing. His smile was so natural, so rehearsed, I could almost believe he actually cared. I took the papers and read them slowly. Of course, they were a trap. With my signature, Ethan would have full access to my money. He could empty the entire account, and I would be powerless to stop him. I looked my son in the eyes. Those eyes that used to shine when he saw me come home from work as a boy, and I felt a mix of disgust and sadness so profound it almost broke me. Of course, son, I trust you. I signed with a trembling hand, but not from fear. It was from contained rage. He did not know that those papers were worthless, because the real money was no longer in that account. I let him take the documents, believing he had made his masterstroke. I let him smile victoriously as he said goodbye with a kiss on my forehead that burned my skin like acid. When he left, I called Catherine. I signed. He has access to the account with $15,000. Let him take it whenever he wants. That will be additional evidence of theft. She confirmed that everything was ready. Vincent had installed tiny cameras in strategic places, one on the dashboard of Ethan's car, another in their living room. We wanted to document everything, every word, every move, and Vincent delivered. 2 days before the trip, he showed me a video that chilled my blood more than any winter wind. It was Ethan and Jessica in their apartment, toasting with wine. The quality was perfect, the audio crystal clear. To the foolish old woman who is going to make us rich, Jessica said, raising her glass. Ethan laughed. He clinked his glass with hers and then kissed her. I already checked the account. 75,000, clean. As soon as we sign the transfer, we are gone. And she stays in her frozen cabin, thinking we are good people. His voice was as casual as someone talking about the weather. But then Jessica said something that not even Ethan expected. Did you buy my separate ticket to meet up with Ryan? Because I do not plan on staying with you any longer than necessary. As soon as we get to the Maldives and secure the money, you go your way, and I will go mine. We had a deal. The look on Ethan's face in that video was almost comical. He froze with the glass in his hand. What are you talking about? His voice sounded broken, confused. Oh, please, do not play dumb. Jessica laughed. Did you really think I wanted to spend my life with an indebted loser like you? You are a means to an end, Ethan. You always were. Ryan and I are going to enjoy that money while you finish paying off your pathetic debts. Ethan shot up from his seat. He was trembling. But this was your idea. You convinced me to leave my mother in that cabin. You planned everything, and you agreed to it without a second thought. Jessica replied coldly. So do not come to me now playing the victim. We are both trash, darling. The difference is, I accept it. I paused the video. I could not watch anymore. Vincent was beside me, silent. Mrs. Peterson, there is something else you need to know. His voice was careful, like someone about to deliver bad news. Your granddaughter, Sophie. The girl is staying with a neighbor during this time. Ethan told her you were sick and needed to rest far away. The girl knows nothing about the real plan. Sophie, my little 12-year-old Sophie, the only pure light left in this rotten family. She was innocent in all of this, and the thought of her suffering the consequences of her father's actions destroyed me in a way that not even Ethan's betrayal had managed. She cannot know anything about this until it is over, I told Vincent. Promise me the girl will be protected. I do not want her to see her father being arrested. I do not want her to carry that trauma. Vincent nodded. I have already spoken with the neighbor. She is a good woman. She will take care of Sophie until this is resolved. And Catherine is preparing documents for you to get temporary custody if needed. The last 2 days before the trip were a hell disguised as normalcy. Ethan would come by every morning to make sure I was packing the right things. Warm clothes. Mom, it is going to be very cold. His words sounded like concern, but I heard the threat behind them. Yes, son, I have packed everything. I even packed my favorite sweater, the one you knit for me when you were 15. Do you remember? He looked at the sweater, and for a second, just 1 second, I saw something in his eyes. Guilt? Regret? But it vanished as quickly as it came. Of course I remember, Mom. I am glad you still wear it. Lies. It was all lies wrapped in fake nostalgia. The night before the trip, I did not sleep. I sat on my bed, staring at the suitcases. A small one with clothes for the cabin, another one hidden in Catherine's closet with my real-life documents, money, photographs, everything that truly mattered. Because I knew that after tomorrow, nothing would ever be the same. I would win the battle, but I would lose my son forever. And that truth weighed on me more than any revenge. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Ethan knocked on my door. He was already dressed, with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Ready for your adventure, Mom? Jessica is waiting in the car. I grabbed my small suitcase, the one they could see, and walked out of my apartment. Maybe for the last time. Maybe forever. The drive was silent. Jessica drove, staring at the road with that bored expression she always had when she was near me. Ethan was in the passenger seat, checking his phone, probably calculating how much money they would spend in their tropical paradise. I was in the back, watching out the window as the city grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared. After 3 hours, the landscape changed completely. There were no more buildings or people, only trees, mountains, and snow. So much snow. The highway turned into a dirt road, and then barely a trail between the trees. Finally, after 4.5 hours of driving, we arrived at the cabin. It was worse than I had imagined. An old wooden structure, isolated in the middle of a clearing surrounded by dense forest. There were no other houses in sight, no signs of civilization, just the white silence of the gently falling snow. Ethan got my suitcase out and carried it inside. The cabin had a single room with a small bed, a wood-burning stove, a table, and 2 chairs. In the corner was a pile of firewood. On the table, a box of canned food. Preserves, soups, beans. Here is firewood and food for 2 weeks, Ethan said, gesturing to everything like a tour guide. The water is in that tank. You have to ration everything because no one is coming until I get back for you. When are you coming back? I asked, my voice trembling. I played my best role of a frightened old woman. In 2 weeks, Mom. I promise. It is going to be a good rest for you. You will see. He hugged me. It was an empty, mechanical hug, but I held on, because I knew it was the last time I would hug my son before I destroyed his life. Jessica did not even get out of the car. She stayed there with the engine running. Ethan took my phone from the table where I had strategically left it. I am taking this because there is no signal out here anyway. I do not want you to get frustrated trying to call. Ethan headed for the door. I followed him. And then, just before getting into the car, he turned around with that icy smile. "Oh, I changed the locks on the apartment," he shouted from the car window as Jessica sped off. "In case you were wondering." I watched them drive away. The car's tires left deep tracks in the snow, and when they disappeared among the trees, when the sound of the engine faded completely, I just stood there, alone, with the wind cutting my face and the cold seeping into my bones, and I smiled. I smiled because I knew that at that very moment Vincent was following them from a distance. Because I knew that in exactly 6 hours, when they arrived at the airport, the police would be waiting for them. Because I knew that my son had just made the biggest mistake of his miserable life. I went into the cabin and closed the door. I reached under the mattress and pulled out the satellite phone that Vincent had hidden there 2 days before. I dialed Catherine's number. "I am inside. They are gone. Activate the plan. Consider it done," she replied. "In 6 hours, this will be over. Hang in there, Margaret. It is almost finished." I hung up and sat on the bed. I looked around that cold, miserable cabin where my son had intended to leave me to die, and I waited. Because revenge is not rushed. Revenge is savored slowly, like the finest of wines, and mine was about to be served. The hours in that cabin passed like centuries. I lit the wood-burning stove because the cold was real, biting. The kind of cold that reminds you that death can come quietly if you let your guard down. I sat near the fire with the satellite phone in my hands, looking at the clock every 5 minutes. Ethan and Jessica had been on the road to the airport for 3 hours now. 3 hours believing they had won. 3 hours imagining tropical beaches and my money slipping through their dirty fingers. But I knew the truth. I knew Vincent was following them 2 cars behind. I knew Catherine was at the police station with the district attorney, showing them the recordings, the fraudulent bank documents, the complete evidence of conspiracy for theft and endangerment of a vulnerable adult. I knew that every minute that passed was 1 minute less until the trap closed on them. The satellite phone rang. It was Catherine. "Margaret, they are 30 minutes from the airport. The police are in position. 2 officers at the main entrance. 2 more at the check-in area. We have a warrant to arrest them the moment they try to check in. How are you?" "Freezing, but alive." "And Sophie?" "With the neighbor. They told her you went to the doctor. She does not suspect a thing. When this is over, we will talk to her, but for now, she is safe and calm. Thank you, Catherine, for everything." My voice broke a little. "I do not know what I would have done without you. It is what friends do, Margaret. We protect each other. Now rest. I will call you as soon as they are arrested, and Vincent is on his way. He will be there in 2 hours to get you out of that horrible place." I hung up and stared at the fire. 2 hours, just 2 more hours in this frozen hell and I would be free. But a part of me, a small, stupid part that still remembered the boy Ethan once was, felt pain. Because a mother never stops being a mother, even when her son becomes a monster. Even when that son deserves every ounce of punishment he is about to receive. I closed my eyes and let the memories wash over me. Ethan at 5 years old, running to me with a drawing he had made in school. "Look, Mommy, it is you and me in a castle." Ethan at 10, crying in my arms because some kids made fun of him. "Do not listen to them, my love. You are perfect just the way you are." Ethan at 16, hugging me tight the day we buried his father. "I am not going to leave you alone, Mom. I promise." All those broken promises, all that love turned to ashes. Where did it all go wrong? Was it my fault for giving him too much? For protecting him so much that he never learned the value of sacrifice? Or are some human beings just born with a void that no amount of love can fill? The phone rang again. This time it was Vincent. "Mrs. Peterson, I am 20 minutes from the cabin. Is everything okay in there?" "I am fine. Just cold." "Have they reached the airport yet?" "They just entered the parking garage." I am watching them from my car. Ethan looks relaxed, even happy. Jessica is touching up her makeup. They have no idea what is waiting for them. The police are ready. In 10 minutes, when they walk into the terminal, it will all be over. 10 minutes. My heart started to beat faster. Not from fear, but from anticipation. from that dark pleasure that comes when you know justice is about to fall upon those who have wronged you. Stay on the line, Vincent. I want to hear what happens. Understood. I will leave the phone on. Hold on. I heard muffled sounds, footsteps, the sound of the wind. Vincent was walking towards the airport terminal, following them from a distance. Then I heard Ethan's voice, clear as water. Come on, baby. The flight leaves in 2 hours. We have plenty of time. I cannot wait to be on the beach, Jessica replied with that sharp voice that always irritated me. Away from this boring country and your burdensome mother. Soon, my love. Soon, Ethan sounded euphoric. And with $75,000, we can stay for 6 months if we want. Maybe we will never come back. There was a silence. Then I heard faster footsteps. And then the authoritative voice of a police officer. Ethan Peterson? Jessica Vargas? Yes? Ethan's voice changed instantly. It sounded confused, alarmed. What is going on? You need to come with us. There are charges against you for bank fraud, aggravated robbery, and endangerment of a vulnerable adult. You have the right to remain silent. What? This is a mistake, Ethan was shouting now. We have not done anything. Let me go. Jessica also started screaming. This is harassment. You cannot just arrest us like this. Call my lawyer. Ma'am, calm down, or we will have to handcuff you for disturbing the peace. The officer's voice was firm. Trained. We have video evidence, audio recordings, and fraudulent bank documents. You are both coming with us. There was a struggle, shouts, the sound of handcuffs closing, and then something I did not expect. Ethan yelled with true desperation. It was her idea. Jessica made me do it. I did not want to do this. I made you? Jessica's voice was pure venom. You were the one who signed the papers. You were the one who changed the locks. Do not blame me, you coward. You are both culpable, the officer intervened. And you can explain it to the judge. Let us go. The sounds grew more distant. Vincent came back on the phone. They are putting them in the patrol car now. People at the airport are staring. This is going to be on the news, Mrs. Peterson. Your son has just been publicly humiliated. Good, I said with a calm I did not recognize myself. Let the whole world know what kind of person he is. I am on my way now. I will be there in less than 2 hours. Get ready to leave. It is very cold, and it is going to get dark soon. I hung up and sat in that frozen cabin, processing what I had just heard. It was done. Ethan and Jessica were arrested. My money was safe. Justice had been served. So why did I feel this emptiness in my chest? Why were tears starting to roll down my cheeks without permission? Because it is one thing to plan revenge, and another thing entirely to see it through. Because hearing your son being arrested, hearing his broken and desperate voice, shatters something inside you that you did not know you were still protecting. Even when that son tried to kill you, even when he deserves it. I cried there alone, in the cabin that was meant to be my tomb. I cried for the boy Ethan once was. For the mother I tried to be. For the family we would never be again. I cried until I had no more tears left. Until the fire began to die down and the cold began to bite again. Then the phone rang once more. It was an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello? Grandma? The voice was small, scared, unmistakable. It was Sophie. Grandma, a police lady came to get me. She says Dad is in trouble. She says he did something bad. Is it true? Where are you? I felt the world stop. My granddaughter. My little Sophie, who was not supposed to know anything until it was all resolved. But someone had talked, someone had told her, and now her voice was trembling on the other end of the line, waiting for me to explain why her world had just collapsed. Sophie, my love. I am okay. I am coming back soon. Your dad made a very big mistake. But you did nothing wrong. None of this is your fault. Do you understand me? What is going to happen to Dad? She was crying. Grandma, I am scared. I do not want Dad to go to jail. He is a good person. He loves me. And there it was. Shattered innocence. The child who still believed in her father, confronted with the horrible truth of who he really was. And I was responsible for that. I had set in motion this machine of justice that was now grinding up everyone in its path, including this innocent child who deserved to carry none of this. My love, your dad does love you. But sometimes people we love do very bad things, and they have to pay for those things. When I get back, we will talk properly. I will explain everything. But right now, I need you to be strong. Can you do that for me? She sobbed. I do not want to be strong. I want everything to go back to normal. Me too, my love. Me too. But we cannot. Sometimes life changes, and there is nothing we can do to stop it. I love you, Sophie. Never forget that. I love you too, Grandma. The call ended. I stared at the phone in my trembling hands. And in that moment, I understood the full, brutal, devastating truth. I had won the battle against Ethan. I had protected my money. I had punished the guilty. But I had lost something far more valuable. I had broken my granddaughter. I had destroyed my family. I had sacrificed a child's innocence on the altar of my revenge. Vincent arrived an hour later. He found me sitting in the dark, the fire dead and my cheeks wet. Mrs. Peterson, we have to go. It is going to snow harder, and the road will get dangerous. I followed him in silence. We got into his car and began the journey back. The entire way, I did not speak. I just looked out the window as the snow covered everything, erasing the tracks, burying the past under white layers of forgetfulness. But I knew my past would not be buried so easily, that the consequences of what I had done were only just beginning to reveal themselves, and that the true price of my revenge was yet to be collected. I arrived in the city after dark. Vincent took me straight to Catherine's apartment because mine, my home of 30 years, now had changed locks and no longer legally belonged to me until a judge ordered otherwise. It was strange to feel displaced from my own life, as if the revenge I had planned with such precision had also erased my place in the world. Catherine was waiting for me with hot tea and a blanket. You look terrible, Margaret. Come, sit down. You need to rest. She guided me to her sofa and wrapped me up as if I were a child. For the first time in weeks, I felt I could let my guard down, that I could stop being the cold strategist and go back to being just a tired, broken woman. What happened at the police station? I asked after taking a sip of tea that burned my throat but made me feel alive. Catherine sighed and sat across from me. Ethan and Jessica are in custody. The charges are serious. Fraud, aggravated robbery, attempted endangerment with risk of death. The prosecutor is asking for 5 to 8 years in prison for each of them. With the recordings and documents we have, it is almost impossible for them to get off. 5 to 8 years. I repeated the words as if they were in another language. My son is going to spend the best years of his life in a cell. Your son tried to leave you to die in a frozen cabin. Margaret, Catherine took my hands. You cannot feel guilty about this. He chose his path. You just defended yourself. But Sophie called me. My voice broke. She knows everything. She is devastated. And I am responsible for that pain. You are not responsible for Ethan's actions. He is the only one to blame. Sophie is a smart girl. In time, she will understand. The important thing now is that you are okay. Did you eat anything in the cabin? I shook my head. I was not hungry. I had not been hungry in hours. Catherine got up and went to the kitchen. She came back with hot soup. Eat. You need strength for what is coming. What is coming? I asked, though a part of me already knew the answer. There is a hearing tomorrow. The judge will determine if they remain in pretrial detention or if they can be released on bail. You need to be there. You need to give your testimony. And believe me, it will not be easy. Ethan is going to try to manipulate you. He is going to cry. He is going to beg. He is going to say it was all a mistake. You have to be prepared to see him like that. I do not know if I can, Catherine. He is my son. I know. That is why I will be with you every second. You will not face him alone. That night I slept in Catherine's guest room, but I did not rest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's face as a child. I heard Sophie's voice crying. I felt the cold of the cabin seeping into my bones. I got up 3 times to walk around the living room, to look out the window, to try to process everything that had happened in such a short time. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Catherine knocked on my door. It is time to get ready. The hearing is at 9. You need to look strong, confident. They are going to try to make you look like the villain. Do not let them. I showered, dressed in a simple brown suit, and pulled my hair back. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I did not recognize. I had deep dark circles under my eyes, wrinkles that seemed to have multiplied in days, and a hard look I had never seen in myself before. Revenge had transformed me into someone different. I did not know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. We arrived at the courthouse at 8:30. There were reporters outside. Vincent was right. This had made the news. Elderly woman nearly murdered by her own son in plot to steal her inheritance. The headlines were sensational and horrible, but true. Catherine shielded me from the cameras as we went inside. The courtroom was cold and impersonal. Gray walls, fluorescent lights, the smell of old paper and disinfectant. I sat in the front row. 5 minutes later, they brought in Ethan and Jessica. They were wearing orange prison jumpsuits, handcuffs on their wrists. Ethan saw me, and something in his face changed. He looked older, more tired. He looked like what he was, a man who had gambled everything and lost. "Mom," he whispered as he passed by, "please, forgive me." I did not answer. I could not. If I opened my mouth, I knew I would either cry or scream, and I did not want to give him that satisfaction. Catherine squeezed my hand. "Stay strong." The judge entered, and we all stood up. He was an older man, about 60, with a severe face and thick glasses. He sat down, reviewed the documents, and began the hearing. "I have reviewed the case. The charges are extremely serious. We have video evidence, audio recordings, and testimony. Does the defense have anything to say?" Ethan's lawyer, a young man in a cheap suit, stood up nervously. "Your Honor, my client acknowledges that he made serious mistakes, but he was manipulated by his wife, Jessica Vargas. She was the one who planned everything. My client is a victim as well." Jessica shot up. "Liar!" He signed the papers. "He changed the locks. Do not blame me for his cowardice." "Order in the court!" the judge shouted, banging his gavel. "Mrs. Vargas, sit down or you will be removed." The prosecutor stood up. "Your Honor, both defendants are equally guilty. They planned together to abandon a 68-year-old woman in an isolated cabin in the middle of winter, steal her life savings, and leave her without any means of communication or transportation. If it were not for the precautions the victim took, we would be dealing with a homicide case. We request pretrial detention without the possibility of bail." The judge looked at me. "Mrs. Margaret Peterson, do you wish to give your testimony?" I stood up on trembling legs. Catherine held my arm. "Yes, Your Honor." "Go ahead." I took a deep breath. I looked Ethan in the eyes. My son abandoned me to die. He took my phone. He changed the locks on my home. He stole my access to my savings, all while hugging me and telling me he loved me. I do not know what hurts more, the betrayal or the realization that the boy I raised no longer exists, that in his place is a stranger capable of killing his own mother for money. Ethan started to cry. "Mom, I am sorry. I am so sorry. I was desperate. I had debts. Jessica was pressuring me. I did not want to hurt you. Please, believe me. You had 3 weeks to regret it, Ethan. 3 weeks in which you came to my house smiling, hugging me, acting like the perfect son. And in all that time, you never, not once, thought about telling me the truth. So do not ask me to believe you now." The judge took notes. Then he spoke with a firm voice. "I have heard enough. The defendants will remain in pretrial detention without the possibility of bail until the trial. The trial date will be set in 30 days. This hearing is adjourned." Ethan screamed as the officers led him away. "Mom, do not do this. I am your son. You cannot leave me here." But I had already turned away. I was already leaving that courtroom with Catherine by my side. And as I walked down that long, cold hallway, listening to Ethan's screams fade behind me, I understood something terrible. I had won. Justice was on my side. My son would pay for what he did. But victory did not taste the way I thought it would. There was no relief or peace, just a huge, painful void where love used to be. The days after the hearing were the strangest of my life. Catherine helped me get my apartment back. A locksmith came and changed the locks again, this time with keys that only I had. I walked into my home after almost a week, and everything looked the same, but it felt different, as if the ghost of betrayal floated in every room. The coffee cup Ethan had used the last time he visited was still in the sink. His fingerprints were probably still on the doorknob. Everything was a reminder that my life would never be the same again. Vincent came by that afternoon with news. "Mrs. Peterson, you need to know something important. Jessica is pregnant. 3 months. The authorities found out during the routine medical exam in prison." I felt the floor move beneath my feet. "Pregnant? With Ethan's child?" Vincent shook his head slowly. "We did the research. The baby is not your son's. The dates do not match up. Jessica was with Ryan, her lover, right around the time of conception. Ethan does not even know yet." My God. I sat down heavily on the sofa. So Ethan was not only betrayed by his mother, according to him, but also by his wife. He is locked up in there, thinking he at least has Jessica, without knowing she used him from the very beginning. "There is more," Vincent continued. "Ryan was also arrested. It turns out he has a record for fraud. He has conned 3 women in the last 5 years. Jessica was just another victim on his list. He convinced her to steal your money by promising they would run away together, but in reality, he planned to take everything from her and disappear. She did not know that either. It was almost comical if it were not so tragic. A chain of betrayals where each link thought they were the smartest, without realizing they were all both victims and perpetrators at the same time. Ethan betraying me. Jessica betraying Ethan. Ryan betraying Jessica. And all of them ending up in the same prison, paying for their greed. "And Sophie?" I asked. "The only thing that truly mattered to me. Where is my granddaughter?" With social services, temporarily, Vincent showed me some papers. "They are evaluating who can have custody of her. You are the most logical choice, but they need to make sure you have the emotional and financial capacity to care for her. They are going to visit you tomorrow to do an assessment." Tomorrow. I did not even have time to process my own tragedy, and already I had to prove I could be responsible for a traumatized 12-year-old girl. But Sophie was innocent. She did not deserve to suffer for her father's sins. "I will do whatever is necessary," I said firmly. "That child is not going to end up in the system. She is my family. She is the only good thing left." That night, I cleaned the room that had been Ethan's when he was a boy. I had kept all his things for years: drawings, soccer trophies, school pictures. As I looked at them, I felt a mix of nostalgia and bitterness. At what point did this sweet boy who drew castles turn into the man who tried to kill me? Was it my fault? Did I spoil him? Did I give him so much that he never learned to value anything? I packed everything into boxes. I did not throw them away. I could not, but I stored them in the closet. Then I decorated the room for Sophie. Clean sheets, a few stuffed animals I had bought for her previous birthdays, her favorite books. I wanted her to feel safe, loved, at home when she came. The next morning, the social worker arrived. She was a woman in her 40s, with a clipboard and a professional but kind expression. "Mrs. Peterson, I am Patricia Ruiz. I am here to evaluate the conditions for the temporary custody of Sophie. Please, come in." I showed her the apartment, the prepared room, my stable financial situation, thanks to the money I had saved. Patricia was constantly taking notes. "Mrs. Peterson, I need to ask you something difficult. How do you feel about having in your care the daughter of the man who tried to kill you? Is there any resentment that could affect the child? Sophie is not Ethan. She is an innocent child who is suffering for decisions she never made. I love her more than anything in this world. I am not going to punish her for her father's mistakes. On the contrary, I am going to protect her from all of this as best I can." Patricia nodded. "And if Sophie wants to visit her father in prison, would you support her?" The question hurt, but I answered honestly. If Sophie wants to see Ethan, I will not stop her. He is still her father. She has the right to form her own opinion of him. I am not going to speak ill of Ethan in front of her, even if it is difficult for me. I promise that. Very well. Patricia closed her clipboard. I am going to recommend that Sophie be placed in your temporary custody, but she will need therapy, Mrs. Peterson, both she and you. This is a huge trauma for a child her age. There is an excellent child psychologist who can help you. Are you willing? I will do whatever is necessary for my granddaughter. 2 days later, Sophie arrived. The social worker brought her in the afternoon. My granddaughter got out of the car with a small suitcase and eyes swollen from crying so much. When she saw me, she just stood on the sidewalk, unsure. I opened my arms, and she ran. She ran and crashed into me with such force that we almost both fell over. "Grandma," she sobbed against my chest. "Everything is horrible. Dad is in jail. Mom Jessica does not want to see me. They say you are the one who had them arrested. I do not understand anything." I hugged her tight as Patricia watched us from a distance. "I know, my love. I know you are confused and scared, but we are going to be okay. The two of us together, we are going to get through this. I promise you." "Why did Dad do that? Why did he want to hurt you?" Her voice was so small, so broken. "I do not have all the answers, Sophie. Sometimes the people we love make horrible decisions. But none of this is your fault. Do you hear me? None of it." I took her inside. I showed her her room. She looked at everything with wide, frightened eyes. "Can I stay here? For real? This is your home now. For as long as you need." That night I made her favorite dinner, pasta with homemade marinara sauce. We ate in silence because words were not enough to heal so much pain. Afterward, I helped her unpack. I found a photograph of Ethan in her suitcase. It was from 2 years ago, on her birthday. Ethan smiling with Sophie on his shoulders. "Can I keep it?" she asked with a trembling voice. "I know Dad did bad things, but I still miss him." I felt my heart break. "Of course you can keep it, my love. He is still your dad. Nothing changes that. But you must hate him. After what he did to you." "I do not hate him, Sophie. I lied because I did not want to burden her with my pain. I am angry, I am hurt, but I do not hate him. He is my son. And as much as it hurts me, a part of me will always love him. Just like you do." She hugged the photograph and cried. I cried with her. 2 broken generations because of one man's decisions. 2 women trying to pick up the pieces of a shattered family. The next day, a letter from the prison arrived. It was from Ethan. The handwriting trembled on the paper. "Mom," it began, "I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I know what I did is unforgivable. But I just found out that Jessica is pregnant and the baby is not mine. I also found out that Ryan is a con artist, that she used me just like I used you. And now I understand. I understand the pain I caused you, the betrayal you felt, because now I feel it too. I am in this cell thinking about everything I lost. My mother, my daughter, my freedom, my dignity, all for greed and stupidity. I am not asking for your forgiveness because I do not deserve it. I am only asking you to take care of Sophie. She is innocent. Do not let her pay for my mistakes." "Ethan," I folded the letter slowly. I did not tear it up. I put it in a drawer with all the other lies and truths of my life, because that was the legacy of my revenge. There were no absolute villains or perfect heroes. Just broken people doing terrible things, paying incredibly high prices, and leaving scars that would never fully heal. The following weeks were a mix of forced routine and silent pain. Sophie started school again but came home quiet, distant. The other kids already knew about her father. The news had covered the case with morbid sensationalism. Son abandons elderly mother to die in frozen cabin for inheritance. The headlines were cruel and exaggerated, but the damage was done. My granddaughter was now the monster's daughter. One afternoon I found her crying in her room. She had torn up the photograph of Ethan. The pieces were scattered on the bed like fragments of a life that no longer existed. "I do not want it anymore," she said between sobs. "I hate him. I hate what he did. I hate that everyone at school looks at me like I am just like him." I sat beside her and carefully picked up the pieces of the photo. "Sophie, you do not have to hate him to be angry with him, and you are definitely not like him. You are good, you are noble, you are everything he should have been and was not. But I have his blood. The kids say that evil is inherited, that I will probably be bad too when I grow up. That is a lie. Evil is not inherited, it is chosen. And every day you choose to be kind, to be strong, to keep going despite the pain. That is what defines you, not your father's mistakes." She hugged me and cried until she fell asleep in my arms. I stayed there, holding that broken child, wondering if we would ever truly heal or if we would just learn to live with the open wounds. The trial came faster than expected. 30 days after the initial hearing, Ethan and Jessica were brought before the court to hear their sentence. Catherine had warned me it would be difficult, but nothing prepared me for what I saw when they entered the room. Ethan had lost weight. He had deep dark circles under his eyes and the empty gaze of someone who had already given up. Jessica, on the other hand, looked furious. Her pregnancy was now slightly noticeable under the prison uniform. She looked swollen, tired, and resentful of the entire world. The judge reviewed all the documents, listened to the final testimonies, and then spoke with a firm, clear voice. After reviewing all the evidence, this court finds Ethan Peterson and Jessica Vargas guilty of aggravated fraud, robbery with intimidation, and endangerment of a vulnerable adult with risk of death. The sentence for Mr. Peterson is 7 years in prison. For Mrs. Vargas, considering her pregnancy, 6 years with the possibility of house arrest after giving birth if she maintains good conduct. Ethan did not react. He just bowed his head as if he already knew this was coming. Jessica, however, exploded. "This is unfair. I was manipulated. Ryan tricked me. I am a victim too. Mrs. Vargas, you actively planned the abandonment of an elderly woman. The recordings demonstrate your full participation. The fact that you were also deceived by a third party does not absolve you of responsibility for your own actions." The sentence is final. The officers took them both away. Jessica was screaming and fighting. Ethan just looked at me one last time before he left. His eyes said everything his words could not. "Forgive me. I love you. I am sorry." But it was too late for that. Too late for everything. Outside the courthouse, the reporters surrounded us. "How do you feel about the sentence, Mrs. Peterson? Do you think it is enough justice? Will you ever forgive your son?" The questions were like daggers. Catherine protected me and cleared a path for us to the car. On the way home, I broke the silence. "Catherine, did I do the right thing?" She glanced at me as she drove. "You did what you had to do to survive, Margaret. Ethan made his choices. The consequences are his, not yours. But Sophie is devastated. My family is destroyed. I won the case, but I lost everything else. Sometimes winning and losing are the same thing." Catherine parked in front of my building. "Now you have to decide what you do with what is left. You can stay in the pain forever, or you can try to build something new with Sophie. It will not be easy, but it is possible." That night, when I got home, Sophie was waiting for me in the living room. She had been watching the news. "How many years did Dad get?" 7 years. She nodded slowly, processing the information. "That means when he gets out, I will be 19. I will already be grown up." "Yes, my love. Do you think he will be different by then? That he will be truly sorry?" "I do not know, Sophie. Prison changes people, but not always for the better. The only thing I know is that in these 7 years we are going to move forward. We are going to heal, and we are going to build a good life together. Can I visit him?" Her voice was small, afraid of my answer. "I know what he did was wrong. I know he hurt you, but he is still my dad, and I miss him." I felt my throat tighten. "Of course you can visit him. Whenever you want, I will take you." "Really? You are not angry?" "I am angry with your dad, not with you. And you have the right to love him and miss him. Nothing he did changes the fact that he is your father." Sophie threw her arms around me. "Thank you, Grandma. Thank you for not making me hate him." 2 weeks later, we made the first visit to the prison. The place was cold, gray, full of bars and guards with expressionless faces. They checked us thoroughly before letting us pass. Sophie was trembling as we walked down the long hallways that smelled of disinfectant and despair. Ethan was waiting for us in the visiting room. When he saw Sophie, his eyes filled with tears. "Princess," he whispered. "My princess." Sophie ran to him and hugged him across the table. "Dad, I missed you so much." Ethan cried openly, without shame, hugging his daughter as if she were the only thing keeping him alive. I stayed at a distance, watching. Ethan looked at me over Sophie's head. "Thank you," He mouthed without a sound. Thank you for bringing her. I nodded in silence. It was not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe never. But it was an acknowledgement that Sophie needed this, and that I was not going to use my granddaughter as a weapon in a war that was already over. The visit lasted 30 minutes. Sophie told him about school, about her new room, about her friends. Ethan listened as if every word were gold. When the time was up and the guard signaled for us to leave, Sophie did not want to let go. I love you, Dad. I am going to come every week. I promise. I love you too, Princess. And I am sorry. I am sorry for everything. Ethan looked at me directly. Mom, I am sorry too. I know it does not mean anything now, but it is the truth. I did not respond. I just took Sophie by the hand and we left. Because some wounds are so deep that apologies are not enough. Some betrayals are so great that forgiveness is not possible, at least not yet. In the car, Sophie was quiet. Finally, she spoke. He looks so sad, Grandma. So different. Prison changed people. Do you think you will ever forgive him? I looked at the road ahead, the city lights twinkling in the distance. I do not know, Sophie. There are things that hurt so much you do not know if they will ever stop hurting. But what I do know is that I am going to try. Not for him. For me. Because carrying so much hate is killing me inside. That night, alone in my room, I took Ethan's letter out of the drawer. I read it again. The words were still the same, but something in me had changed. The rage was still there, but now it was accompanied by something else. Exhaustion, sadness, and a question that would not let me sleep. Was it worth it? Was it worth destroying my son to save myself? 6 months after the trial, life had found a strange but functional rhythm. Sophie visited Ethan every 2 weeks. I would accompany her, but I would stay outside in the waiting room, reading old magazines while my granddaughter spent half an hour with her father. I did not have the strength to face him yet. Every time I thought about looking him in the eye, I remembered the cold of that cabin, his words planning my death, and something inside me would shut like a steel door. Therapy was helping, but it was slow and painful. The psychologist, Dr. Ramirez, was a patient woman who asked me difficult questions every week. What do you feel when you think about Ethan? Is there any part of you that wants to forgive him? How do you handle the guilt of having sent him to prison? I would answer with brutal honesty. I feel rage. I feel betrayal. And yes, I feel guilty, even though I know I should not. One afternoon, during our session, Dr. Ramirez confronted me. Margaret, you saved your own life. Ethan made decisions that led him to prison. You are not responsible for his actions. Why do you keep punishing yourself? Because he is my son. Because I raised him. Because at some point, something went wrong, and I do not know if it was my fault. My voice broke. What if I gave him too much? What if I never taught him to value things because I always gave him everything? What if I created the monster that tried to kill me? Or maybe Ethan just made his own choices as an adult. Maybe you were a good mother, and he decided to be a bad son. Both things can be true at the same time. Her words haunted me for days. Could it be true? Could I stop blaming myself and accept that Ethan was responsible for his own destiny? It was harder than it sounded, because mothers always find ways to blame themselves. We always find cracks in our actions, mistakes in our decisions, moments when we should have done something different. Meanwhile, Sophie was slowly blossoming. She had made 2 new friends at school, girls who did not judge her for her father's mistakes. She started to smile more. Sometimes, I would hear her singing in her room while doing her homework. Small moments of normalcy that filled my heart. But she also had nightmares. I would wake up in the night hearing her scream. I would run to her room and find her sweating, crying, trapped in dreams where her father abandoned her or where I disappeared. I would hug her until she calmed down, whispering that everything was okay, that we were together, that no one was going to separate us. One day, an unexpected letter arrived. It was from Jessica. She had given birth in prison a month ago. A boy. She had given him up for adoption because she had no way to care for him and no one who wanted him. The letter was short and bitter. Mrs. Peterson, she wrote in tight script. I hope you are happy. You destroyed my life, your son's life, And now an innocent child will grow up without knowing his mother, all for your revenge. I hope it is worth living with that on your conscience." I tore the letter into pieces. The rage returned like a wave. How dare Jessica blame me? She had planned to rob me, abandon me, leave me to die. She had betrayed Ethan with her lover. She had used everyone around her for her own benefit. And now, from her cell, she was trying to make me feel guilty for the consequences of her own actions. But that night, I could not sleep. Because as much as I hated to admit it, Jessica was right about one thing. An innocent child had paid the price. A baby who did not ask to be born in the middle of this disaster would now grow up without a family, without knowing who his parents were, marked by a story he did not even understand. And yes, a part of me carried that responsibility. I told Catherine about the letter. She listened in silence and then spoke with that clarity she always had. "Margaret, you did not force Jessica to get pregnant by her lover. You did not force her to plan a robbery. You did not force her to betray your son. She made every one of those decisions on her own. The baby is a victim, yes, but not because of you. He is a victim of his biological parents' decisions. I know. But I cannot help feeling that my revenge came at too high a cost. Too many people suffered, and if you had done nothing, you would be dead. Would that cost have been better?" I had no answer for that, because both truths existed at the same time. I had the right to defend myself, to seek justice. But justice had dragged innocence in its wake. Sophie, Jessica's baby, maybe even Ethan himself, who had perhaps been manipulated more than I wanted to admit. 2 weeks later, Sophie asked me a question that shattered me. "Grandma, are you ever going to visit Dad with me? He always asks about you. He says he misses you, that he wants to talk to you, even just once." "I am not ready, my love. When will you be ready? It has been 7 months. He is in there alone, paying for what he did. Do you not think he has suffered enough? Sophie, what your dad did is not erased by 7 months in prison. He tried to kill me, but he is still your son, and my dad. And I know it hurts you just as much as it hurts me. I see you crying at night when you think I am asleep. I hear you talking to yourself, wondering what you did wrong. Would it not be better to talk to him? To try to understand?" Her words hit me like a fist to the stomach. She was right. Sophie, at only 12 years old, saw things I was trying to hide. She saw my pain, my guilt, my need to close this chapter in some way. "Let me think about it," I finally said. That night, alone in my room, I made a decision. I was going to visit Ethan, not because I had forgiven him, not because I was ready, but because I needed to look him in the eyes and tell him everything I had held inside for all these months. I needed him to know exactly what he had done to me. And I needed to hear, one last time, if there was anything in him worth saving. I called the prison the next day and scheduled an individual visit. The guard gave me a date for Friday. 3 days. 3 days to emotionally prepare myself to face the man who gave me life and then tried to take it away. Catherine offered to come with me. I declined. This was something I had to do alone. Sophie was excited when I told her, "Are you really going? Are you going to talk to him? Maybe now everything can start to get better. Do not get your hopes up, my love. I am just going to talk. Nothing more." But deep down, I too had a small hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, I would find some answer in that conversation. Some closure, some way to truly begin to heal. Friday came too quickly. I dressed carefully, as if for an important appointment. In a way, it was. It was the appointment where I would finally confront my son without lawyers, without judges, without anyone but the two of us and the raw truth between us. The drive to the prison was long. Every mile made me doubt. What was I going to say? Where would I start? How do you summarize months of pain in a 30-minute conversation? I arrived at the prison at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They searched me, took everything except my identification, and guided me down those gray hallways I already knew from taking Sophie. But this time was different. This time, I was the one going into that room. I was going to sit across from Ethan. I was going to look him in the eyes. And I had no idea what would happen next. The visiting room was smaller than I remembered. Or maybe it was me who felt smaller. I sat in the hard plastic chair and waited. My hands were trembling on the table. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. But my heart was beating so hard I felt like everyone in that prison could hear it. The door opened, and Ethan walked in. He looked worse than the last time I had seen him. Thinner, with more gray hair, his skin ashen as if sunlight were just a distant memory. When he saw me, he stopped short. His eyes filled with tears instantly. "Mom," he whispered, as if he could not believe I was there. "Sit down, Ethan." My voice came out colder than I intended, but I did not apologize. He sat down slowly, never taking his eyes off me. Several seconds passed in silence. Finally, he spoke in a broken voice. "I did not think you would come. After everything I did not think you would ever want to see me again. I did not come because I have forgiven you. I came because I need to tell you something. I need you to understand exactly what you did to me, and I need to listen to you. I need to know if there is anything in you worth saving, or if the son I raised died a long time ago." Ethan lowered his head. "Whatever you want to say to me, I deserve it. All of it. I am not going to defend myself or make excuses. I have no excuses left. Good, because I have 7 months of things stored up in here." I touched my chest. 7 months of wondering where I lost you. At what point you stopped being the boy who would hug me and tell me I was the best mom in the world. At what point you forgot that I worked double shifts for years so you could have food, clothes, and education. That I buried your father and carried on just for you. Mom, I know, and I hate myself every second for what I did. You hate yourself? I felt the anger rising. Because I hate myself too, Ethan. I hate myself for not seeing the signs. For giving you so much that you never learned to value anything. For protecting you so much that you never learned to face consequences. My voice broke. I hate myself for still loving you despite everything. Ethan began to cry openly. I tried to stay strong, but tears came to my eyes as well. Do you know what it feels like to be in that frozen cabin, alone, knowing that your own son left you there to die? It is not the cold that hurts, Ethan. It is the betrayal. It is understanding that the person you loved most in the world hates you so much they would rather see you dead. I did not hate you, Mom. I never hated you. I was desperate. I was blinded by debt, by Jessica pressuring me, by the fear of losing everything. But I never hated you. Then explain to me how someone who does not hate can coldly plan their mother's murder, because that is what it was, Ethan. Murder. If I had not discovered your plan, I would be dead, and you would be in the Maldives spending my money without an ounce of remorse. He sobbed, his face in his hands. You are right. Everything you are saying is true. I am a monster. I am the worst piece of trash that exists. And if I could go back in time, if I could change every decision I made, I would. But I cannot. I can only tell you that I love you, that I am sorrier than anything in the world, and that I understand if you never forgive me. Sophie comes to see you every 2 weeks. I changed the subject because I could not keep talking about forgiveness. She loves you despite everything. She defends you at school when the kids make fun of you. She cries at night, missing you. That girl is the only reason I am still functioning. Because if I fall apart, she falls apart. And I will not let your mistake destroy her future too. She is the best thing that ever happened to me. And the best thing I did was not involve her in this. At least I did that right. Do you know that Jessica had the baby? I asked, watching his reaction. Ethan nodded bitterly. I heard. A boy that is not mine. A boy she gave up for adoption. Another life ruined by our decisions. Ryan wrote to me once. You know, from his prison. He told me that Jessica was just a job for him. That he never loved her. That I was a useful idiot in his plan. He is right. I was an idiot in every sense of the word. You will not get any pity from me, Ethan. You all made choices. You all paid the consequences. I am not looking for your pity, Mom. I just want you to know that these 7 months in prison have taught me more than the 38 years I lived outside. I have had time to think, to remember everything you sacrificed for me, to understand that what I did is unspeakable, and to accept that maybe I will never leave here as the person I should have been. But at least I am going to try. I looked at my son, this broken man who was once my baby, and I felt something strange. It was not forgiveness. Not yet. But it was something like understanding. He had made bad decisions. He had repaid good with evil. He had betrayed the most sacred trust. But he was still human. He was still capable of regret, of suffering, of trying to change. I do not know if I can ever forgive you, Ethan. I spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. I do not know if these wounds can ever heal, but I came today because Sophie needs me to try, because she loves you, and I love her, and because carrying so much hate is killing me inside. What can I do? Is there anything I can do to start fixing this? You can be better. You can use these years to really change. Not just say you will. You can write letters to Sophie where you teach her what you have learned, where you tell her not to make your mistakes. You can turn this tragedy into a lesson. Not for me, for her. I will. I swear to you I will. And Ethan, one more thing. My voice hardened. If you ever, at any point in your life, hurt that girl again in any way, there will be no second chance. There will be no more visits. There will be no more letters. You will lose her forever. Do you understand? I understand. And I promise you I will never hurt anyone again. Especially not Sophie. She is the only pure thing I have left. The guard knocked on the door. Time. I stood up slowly. Ethan stood up too. We stood there, separated by a table that seemed like a chasm. Mom, will you come back? His voice was small, hopeful. I do not know. Maybe. Someday. When I am ready. I walked out of that prison feeling something different. It was not peace. It was not happiness. But it was something like partial closure. Like when you finish reading a sad book and, even though it hurts, at least you know how it ends. Sophie was waiting for me at home with anxious eyes. How did it go? Did you talk? Is Dad okay? We talked. And yes, he is as okay as anyone can be in prison. I sat down next to her and hugged her. Sophie, your dad made terrible mistakes, but he is still your dad, and he loves you. And I am going to try, just try, to find a way to heal. It will not be fast or easy, but I am going to try. For you, for me, maybe even for him. Does that mean that someday everything will be okay? It means that someday the pain will be smaller, that we will learn to live with what happened, that we will build something new from the ruins. It will not be like it was before, but it will be ours. And that will have to be enough. That night, for the first time in months, I slept without nightmares. I dreamed of snow, but this time it was not threatening. It was just snow, falling gently on an empty road. And I was walking down that road, holding Sophie's hand. I did not know where it led, but I knew we were not alone. 6 months later, I received a letter from Ethan. It was different from the previous ones. He did not ask for forgiveness. He did not make excuses. He just wrote about how he had started teaching reading classes to other inmates. How he had discovered that teaching gave him purpose. How every day he tried to be a little better than the day before. At the end of the letter, he wrote something that made me cry. Mom, I have learned that redemption does not come from one single big decision, but from 1,000 small decisions every day. Deciding to be kind, deciding to help, deciding not to give up. I do not know if I will ever deserve your forgiveness. But every day I decide to try to deserve it. For you. For Sophie. For the man I should have always been. I put the letter in a box with all the others. Someday, when Sophie was older, I would give them to her, so she could understand that people are complex, that good and evil are not absolutes, that we all carry our scars and our choices. I stood in front of the window, looking out at the city. It was October again. 1 year since it all began. The snow would be coming soon. But this time, I was not afraid of it, because I had survived the coldest winter of my life, the one that came not from the outside, but from within. And if I could survive that, I could survive anything. I looked at my reflection in the glass. Margaret, 69 years old. Mother, grandmother, survivor. Not perfect, not without scars, but alive, still standing, still fighting. And that, I discovered, was victory enough.